Evening.
Deontay was coming in. What is up, everybody?
How's it going?
Hello.
Halloween Eve over here.
Saying, where y'all at anyway?
Where are we?
Yeah.
Oh, Tampa.
South of Tampa.
Oh, Tampa stand. Nice.
Where are you at, Jeff?
I'm in Virginia now. I retired out here. I took a job. And I'm on my third contract position because contracts don't last forever. I live in Hampton Roads.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Williamsburg.
Yeah, I grew up in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I work in Langley.
Up there.
I miss Virginia.
How's the weather for you guys? I mean,
It's starting to get cold already.
Yeah.
See,
I
you guys
miss
get to
that.
enjoy Halloween. Like our Halloween is just like it's July still.
Mm,
I know I miss it. I miss Florida so damn bad.
we should trade these.
We should trade. You
Trade.
head down.
Hey, any day.
there.
Any day. I'll take Tampa stand.
Yeah. We'll trade.
Are y'all closer to the Atlantic side or are y'all closer to the
Nicole.
that's the
Right
Gulf
on the
side,
bay.
yes, right. Yeah.
We're
We're right
on
near
the
Tampa
Bay
Bay.
area, so just south of Tampa, maybe 15 out in the
Okay.
Riverview area. So it's like
Mhm.
right on the east coast of the bay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's hot and humid.
yeah. All right. So the Halloween here for Saturday Night Nerds. We're looking at some reviewing here and going over some of the top fives lists for everybody, from film, TV shows to movies. We've talked about that, and I think everybody's seen a good number of the horror movies this year. And I mean, good year for horror. We've had some read as far as like the Hellraiser, life pumped back into the movie Prey.
Ooh,
So-
yeah, Prey.
We've got to look at and see. And hopefully, we'll have some people chime in and let us know what they think and what they rank as the top five. So,
And these top five are going to be in no particular order. Just a disclaimer for everybody.
so introductions, ladies first.
Hi,
Well,
I'm
that's sweet of
Jennifer
you.
Johnson. There, that's me.
Jeff, as it says on the screen.
True. And I'm EJ. You guys have seen me a couple of times before. So the SNN or SNN members will be maybe dropping in and out later. But for now, it's the three of us, and we'd like to talk with some of you guys and see where you stand on the top five horror movies of 2020. I don't think anyone could say they've seen them all, because there's a number when you go and check IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, but we're more viewing the ones that have probably been more widely seen or hit theaters, and more of a proliferation across the country. So you may have an should be number one, but right now we're going to go with what we do know as the ones that have hit the theaters and had the most buzz.
And so
go ahead.
our first topic tonight is the top five so far of 2022. I'm typing to Deontay since he's camera shy right now.
So anybody got a top five right off the back that they, or one that you, let's just start with the first of the group. Have a top five for this year of horror movies that you've seen.
Oh, we're doing top five franchises of all time.
Oh,
apparently.
I'm sorry, top five.
Yeah.
franchises.
That's what's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So that's what we'll go with first.
Okay, great.
Probably the first one. Probably Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser that came out.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, wrong question. It's the top 5 franchises of all time. So we've that is the first topic for tonight. So top 5 franchise of all time. Top number 1 pick for your franchises of all time.
Of all time?
Yeah, I know all time. It's kind of heavy.
I don't know.
Pick a 5.
God, that's hard for horror movies. I don't know. I always really like Freddy Krueger.
Nightmare on Elm Street. You can't go wrong, and it's got to be up there.
You can't beat that
You
first
can't
one.
argue that one. You can't argue that. Top 5
Yeah.
easy.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I mean, you name that, and probably somebody will
Freddy
recognize
Krueger.
what you're talking about.
Dude, to this day, Freddy Krueger still scares the shit out of me. There's scenes still in those movies that I don't care how many times I'll watch it. That jump scare, it gets me every damn time.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that dude kills you in your fucking dreams doesn't help.
Yeah.
I mean,
Excellently written.
there's only so long awake. You know, he's gonna get you eventually.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I loved how like through this they, you know, like one of them was that what you remember the dream even when like the baby was sleeping, like he could get to him. Like I'm like, oh my god, who thought of that? That's
Wes Craven thought of that, of course.
Yeah.
Of course he
Genius.
did. Of course, yeah.
Wes Craven killed himself in the making of the movie, The New Nightmare, exactly.
And everything he was typing was happening. It was pretty awesome.
Yep. That was probably one of my favorite ones. What
Hey,
is going on?
What up? I'm sorry for being late. I was trying to make it.
No problem.
Hey, no problem. Welcome. Right now we're discussing the top 5 franchises of all time, and we mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street, and we're all kind of talking about Freddy and Wes Craven. So,
for sure. Oh man, take off where you guys were. My bad. I'm just listen for right now.
And so while we're on the top 5 franchises and Wes Craven, we'll go ahead and throw in Hellraiser right now.
John Carpenter. No, Clive Barker.
Clive Barker. Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Oh man, I would say Hellbound. Hellraiser 2 is my favorite horror film of all time. I would say that one.
That was the grossest one I think out of all of them, if I'm not
mistaken.
Man. That's the one. That's the first time they did the Cenobite. Like they showed you how it was made. I think, was it not?
Oh yeah, with Dr. Chenard at the very end when it's like he gets pushed back into this like box, and then you see the wires come around him and kind of dig into his skin and everything.
So the one thing I've never understood is it's aliens, right? Like the mothership thing that always comes. Is that an alien spaceship?
The dimensional thing, right? It's like the big.
The Leviathan.
The Leviathan. That is a spaceship. Am I not?
No, it is a.
Dimensional.
It's like a god to them. That's how it's explained in all the lore and everything when it comes to the Cenobites and all that. Is that the Leviathan is the god of this domain that is held for them.
Okay.
it's
And
like a human entity, like it does the same I don't know, physiology and stuff as we do. Strange shape thing is actually like a consciousness to them. Like it's like it creates them, it governs them. So
and then I think in the new
always confused
Hellraiser,
me. Like, was that intended like it's a spaceship and they just don't talk about it that way, or I just always was confused on that.
Well, I know that it's kind of like the stretched out version of the lament figuration. And that's kind of what it is like, because if you see, even in this new Hellraiser, as the box changes, the final configuration is Leviathan, which is that kind of almost like a pyramid-esque.
Yeah, it's like a stretched out diamond kind of.
Yeah, something like that. But it was always looked at as some kind of like god for them, and it was what created the Cenobites, and it's what kind of rules this hellscape, and that's why we have the Cenobites, because the Hell Priest is the one who leads them, and they're supposed to kind of impose what the Leviathan wants, which is to kind of get the lament configuration out there to those seeking pleasure, and that pleasure could be in the form of pain. And I think that was the whole idea of Hellraiser, was that
Mm-hmm.
kind of more philosophical instead of being like science fiction. It was more the gods and man instead of it being aliens and, you know,
So
humans.
how did y'all feel about Jamie Clayton taking over as Pinhead? Did y'all like it, or?
I loved it. I thought
I did too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I
great.
feel like that's a better replacement than how they were doing with the last two Hellraiser films beforehand. Because we've seen the kind of like it just, the face never matched up with the actor that they got for the was it the second and last one. Now I did actually enjoy the one what is it, not Revelations but the Judgment or whatever it was that kind of came out right before this one. I think it came out a couple years
Yeah,
before.
that was kind of like like they tried to close the franchise with that one, I think.
Oh, okay. Give it like a conclusion. Wrap it up.
Kind of.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because it involved like angels for the first time. It like it involved the Christian God instead of the Leviathan. So it was just something that was different. And I thought that it was something that they could have expanded upon. And then we get the reboot. And now I think that the reboot kind of reinvigorated what Hellraiser was trying to do in the
He's already writing the next story. He loved it so much that he's already working on new material for it. If that tells you anything.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see more of it because I've always been a fan of the Hellraiser franchise. I thought it was one of the best of the horror franchises. I would put it up there with like Halloween, and I know you guys were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. So like for me, it was always Hellraiser and Halloween, the two H's. I felt like those two were the
good
kind of
segue.
Like the best ones to kind of go hand in hand. But Halloween, I'm looking forward to watching that new movie tomorrow. So I'm really
I haven't seen the latest one. Halloween's probably the top for me.
Oh, he's
Number
my favorite
3.
slasher.
Now we get freaking Halloween. Good segue, my man.
Yeah, excellent.
Oh yeah,
So-
easily the favorite slasher is Michael Myers, easily.
Oh yeah, and so I think it was in the beginning they kind of brought about, like, I wish I could. Deontay, if Deontay was here, I'd ask him to post that meme that I posted earlier into chat. It kind of walks you through, like, hey, this is how you watch the Halloween franchise.
Oh yeah,
You can't just watch. Yeah, you
saw
can't
that.
just watch it. You have to look at it as one franchise that started with number 1, and then it branches off. You have the Rob Zombie stuff, and then you have 2. Nobody talks about 3. 3 never happened.
Oh, because 3 was supposed to be, because the initial plan for Halloween was that it was going to be an anthology kind of movie series. That's why the third film ended up being The Season of the Witch and wasn't really tied to Michael Myers. That it was, and they were wanting to be an anthology. It was just that the second movie was just kind of spillover from the first movie, and the fourth movie was supposed to be something completely different from Season of the Witch, but they scrapped it once they realized that people really enjoyed Michael Myers and they wanted his return. And that's why we have the ugly stepchild, which is Season of the Witch.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
But I love the movie. I think that the movie, if you remove it from the Halloween franchise, is a good standalone film.
Like literally the meme I posted removes number 3, and it kind of gives you a layout, like which movies go together in the order you're supposed to watch them in. They all start with number 1, of course, and then it goes through the different ones, like the H's, the H2O, and I think the newest one I think is in there. So I mean, it really,
Halloween.
instead of saying, oh well, it ruined the franchise, don't look at it as it ruined the franchise. Look at it as one franchise with like 4 different visions, or 4 different paths it could have took. And I still, to this day, I really enjoyed the Rob Zombie reboot, and I still think he deserves one more movie to close his out.
Oh man, I have a completely different opinion. I never really cared for the Rob Zombie ones. Those ones, the issue that I had with those was that they kind of tried to humanize Michael. They tried to make him more like this, something that you could actually see in reality. And that's what I enjoyed about John Carpenter's version of Michael, was that Michael was just this shape. He was this figure. He was the boogeyman. He was this idea that
he was a demon.
Oh,
I think
Kinda like
that's
that.
Rob Zombie's signature, though. If you look at it, he wants to familiarize the villain
Yep.
from one way or another. So he takes the vantage point of sorry for the villain, which I think it's a different approach, and I think I liked his vision of Michael. He was very intimidating, very.
It was a big.
He was rather large, yeah.
Rob Zombie does go. He does tend to go more artistic than visceral. Like
Yes.
John Carpenter is visceral. Michael
Oh, yeah.
Myers is the personification of evil. Okay, he's
Yep.
not no redeeming him. There's no love for his mother. There's nothing. Okay, he is just the avatar of evil incarnate.
But
Okay,
when
that's all he is.
But when you do, it makes him less scary, because when he is the boogeyman, basically like some natural thing that comes after you, to me that is more scary than just like a psychopath with a knife.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
Because he then becomes unstoppable,
Yeah.
and it's like
Exactly.
everywhere you go. And that's what I liked about the first film, was that
yeah,
you
I
see
agree.
him throughout the film, just watching Jamie Lee Curtis's character. You're
Yep.
seeing Lori being stalked throughout the entire, and she's the only one that seems to see him.
That was,
And I think that's what I really
genius.
enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
John Carpenter's a genius. He would show you in the scene, if you watch,
Yeah.
he's watching you or he's watching them.
Oh yeah.
It's not like Jason chasing you through the woods where you're going to slip and fall or whatever, and then
That's a good
going the
segue.
yard, way when he catches up. Michael has been there the whole time. He's already in the area. He's scouted out your house. He's checked out your garage. He's
Yeah.
hanging out in the living room. Passed by him. Michael is all about the hunt, but in a sense that he's closer to you in a silent death kind of way. He's
Mm-hmm.
death is upon you, and he's been with you for the last.
That was always creepy. It's like after he would like stab somebody, or he'd always kind of cock his head and just kind of like look. I'm just like, oh.
He's just admiring his handiwork.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think in the old school ones had Loomis to kind of fill in those fearful gaps because Mike talk. So when Loomis tells you things like there's nothing behind his eyes but darkness, I mean that kind of stuff builds that fear. And when you see Mike out, he's right. There is, it's like a cold evil there, and he's, I thought that was brilliant because although Freddy is amazing as far as West for him to be, you can't get away.
Mm-hmm.
He's your dream. But Freddy had the comic relief, not in the first movie, but as it went on, as this franchise carried, Freddy would kill you, and Freddy would, make a joke when he's trying, killing people. Michael
Turns you into a cockroach.
There's nothing about Michael that's going to make you laugh.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And I would have loved this scene if Rob Zombie got him to that in part 3, if he had a chance to do a third, because he humanized him. He made him. At the end of 2, he started getting to that point kind of where he was more like the Michael Myers we liked in the other franchises. So he was getting to that point. And I know Rob Zombie has already said that he'll never do another one. He's done with it.
Yeah.
So I know we're not going to get that, but wishful thinking for those that did like the Rob Zombie versions of it.
Yeah.
And I know you've just started our next segue, I believe, into the one and only Jason Voorhees of Count Crystal Lake.
Yep.
Which to me, another one that scared the living shit out of me because I grew up on a farm in North Alabama. I didn't have a lake behind my house, but I grew up with a pond behind my house. And I would fish this thing constantly. So every now and then you get snagged up on something. And I'm like, fuck, it's Jason Voorhees. I fucking know it. And it scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always liked the Friday the 13th films, but me, I like the cheesier ones. Like I really enjoyed Part 8 when he takes Manhattan, where they're
That
on
was
the.
a good one. Hey, that's a good one.
He was
No
just on the
shit.
boat the whole time, and like he's in Manhattan for that little tidbit at the very
Yeah,
end.
exactly.
But he was murking motherfuckers on that boat, though.
Oh yeah, and then one of my favorite kills is in that movie where he's on top of the roof, and you got the guy that's like punching him, trying to hit him, and all that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he just takes one hit and he knocks his block off.
Yeah.
And it took me
Clean,
back to like
too.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space when
Oh yeah.
I think it's the small clown, and he's going up to the bikers, and then all of a sudden he just punches him right in the chin and knocks his head off. Like it just. Anytime I see that in a movie, it's always fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And then, you know, the franchise at 10, I think. So 10 was made by a bunch of college kids as their college project, graduation project. And in all honesty, it wasn't entirely bad, but it was bad.
Oh yeah, but it had some interesting kills. Like one of my favorite kills was when they did the freezing. What is it called? With the
cryogenic freezing.
Yeah, the cryogenic freezing, where he stuck her head into it and then pulled it out and then slammed it onto the ground.
Yeah.
That was one of the more. That's a creative kill. That's something that I enjoy seeing, and it's not often that we see something that's that far out there. But that would only happen in a Jason X movie, you know. So it's just it was fun to watch just for the kind of science fiction kind of style killing that we saw Jason finally do.
And then we got the nanobite Jason, which was kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
The look was excellent. Yeah, it was like, wow, someone had a good concept vision there.
I had that figure for a little bit and sold the figure to a buddy of mine who was a big Jason Voorhees fan. And he's like, dude, I'm missing the Jason X figure. I'm like, dude, I got you. And I sold it to him. So that one is no longer in my collection.
Oh man.
But it's fine. I'm more of a Spawn collector and other stuff, so.
Oh, I feel you.
All right, so just a question about the Friday the 13th franchise. They did try to reboot it. What was that, 2006 or something?
6 or 8.
6 or 8, yeah.
Like and it wasn't bad. I actually did a pretty good job with the attempted reboot. They made him more human though. Like he wasn't. I didn't get.
He wasn't the demon that he became. Because remember, he became a demon. He went to hell, and he became a demon.
Oh yeah. But it was definitely something. It felt like during that time of reboots that we got, where we got the Halloween reboot, where we got the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, and then we got the Friday.
Nightmare on Elm Street reboot at that
time. We did.
did.
It was the that one with the guy who played Rorschach in Watchmen.
It was.
That's right. That's right.
Around that time period. So out of all three of them, I felt like the Friday the 13th one kind of stood out the most and kind of felt like a return to the franchise instead of being something that was completely different. Because when we saw the Nightmare on Elm Street one, it was kind of lacking that kind of fun that Robert Englund had brought to the character. That kind of the quips, the jokes that he would do.
Didn't have that, and I mean the tone took a total dive because it went more into the fact that he was a child predator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was too much focus on that. We all know that.
Oh yeah, and then we already got that before when he did the Freddy's Nightmares show.
Yeah.
If you remember that, he kind of went more back into that backstory in that show, and then of course during Freddy's Dead, we get the entire backstory with Freddy. So I don't see why we needed another kind of like return to that. I felt like it would have been a lot nicer if they returned it that feeling that the first film had, where it was just
him fucking you up in your nightmare.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna make him just straight scary, they should have just made him straight scary instead of what they did with him. I felt like there was a lot more they could have done. And
to me, they almost humanized him in it.
Yeah,
I know we were talking about that with the Halloween franchise, but they made him more. He felt human, like he was a vulnerable human being. I can't say that word, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, but it's just back to like Jason. I felt like Jason was always something that was he was that kind of like that brute figure of the slashers. He was always that, towering, overpowering, that kind of breakthrough character. He could bust through walls. And then when we saw in Freddy versus Jason, he beat the shit out of Freddy.
Dude,
And
like it was
that
nobody's
crazy to see.
business. Like and then Freddy worked with everybody to try to kill Jason. You remember, it was Kelly Rowland. Watching Kelly Rowland get killed, by the way, was really nice in that movie. Her death was like phenomenal. But I really enjoyed that movie. I got to put that out there. That was a good one. And we waited so damn long for that movie. And then when we finally got it, to me, it didn't disappoint. But there were some things that, you wish they kind of would have done better.
Right. And I felt like it was really fun. I thought that it was something that was kind of like a breath of fresh air for both franchises, because towards the end of both franchises, they kind of dwindle in what they were doing. At least with Freddy, he had a new nightmare. A new nightmare kind of bounced back what Freddy was, and he kind of made him scary again. But for Halloween, it was getting a bit rough there until Rob Zombie did his kind of rougher version of Halloween. But he added definitely that Rob Zombie style that we saw in like A House of a Thousand Corpses and in The Devil's Rejects.
Great movie.
That it's just nice to see them give the characters like, they're just dudes, the things that they deserve. So like whenever I think of Jason, I think of overpowering, nonstop, can't stop him wherever he goes. When I think of Michael, I think of an enigma. I think of a ghoul. I think of a phantom, the stranger that's always lurking behind you. And then when I think of Freddy, I think of the thing that's supposed to be in your nightmares, the thing that's supposed to terrify you, the thing that's supposed to bring you just your worst fears and make you face them and confront them. And I think that's why I enjoy the third film of Nightmare, is just because they were able to finally confront him and fight back, and that's what the whole movie was.
Yeah, it's really different. That's what I even brought a character who was completely different idea. He hunts you in your dreams, and then Jason is out of the franchises. Jason is really a basic approach. I mean, he's a slasher, and I mean, I don't know if it's a masked slasher. It's just, like you have the little things like you just mentioned with Michael. He kind of, because he is like a phantom, But until Jason did the Jason, and then he was more of a supernatural figure. But at first, it was masked slasher. So, but I mean, you can't deny he knows Friday the 13th. So he definitely earned his spot on the top 5 there.
Oh yeah. And then I think the most human out of any of them, out of any slasher, should definitely be Leatherface.
Ooh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
If we're going to talk about kind of like the pillars of horror, we got to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was definitely something. It was during a time that
it is loosely based on true stories.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting.
Real life events, I should say.
But at the time, just seeing, because it came out in the 70s, right? It would be about the late 70s.
Yeah, the first one came out in the was it the late 70s or early 70s? I think 70s?
It was 75, and then Halloween came out in 78. So I want to say it was 75 for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But just seeing something that grotesque finally hit the big screen, it was something that was completely different, I think. And it was shipped. It was one of those kind of, it was like The Exorcist, when The Exorcist finally hit the big screens, and how it changed horror forever. How it went from being, the universal monsters to now we're dealing with supernatural forces. We're dealing with shock. We're dealing with the true horror that we know now that they really built upon in the 80s. But with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they hit it right away. It was ominous. It was eerie. And in the first movie, there wasn't that much blood. There really wasn't. Like, you would see maybe a hint of it here and there, but it was more just the fact that it was disgusting. It was grimy. It was just nasty everywhere.
The whole set-ins, like every set-in. We're talking. What's that?
The thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though, is that they wouldn't always show stuff, and it kind of left to your imagination, which I think made it even more scary, because you're like, oh, sound? What are they doing? Oh my god! And your imagination runs wild.
And it's in grimy Texas too, like the desert part of Texas where it's grimy and you just feel dirty. So the setting of the movie, just everything fits to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if you've ever driven through that part of Texas, you get that feeling that it's just like it's grimy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's
like that shit really happened there. Like I could believe that.
It's just all disgusting. So like, but I also like the family aspect of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That kind of inbred, kind of messed up, fucked up kind of world that they all live in. Kind of like how The Hills Have Eyes had those inbred cannibals.
They all come out around the same time too. The original Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Last House on the Left, which is unrelated, but it all come out around the same time originally. They're in the mid 70s when I think horror really was peaking.
Oh yeah,
like,
I would say
the horror that we know today was really hitting its stride. It was in that time frame.
Oh yeah, the 70s and then into the 80s, I felt was that kind of the renaissance of horror. It was where we really got a shooting, where people really found, you know, that horror could be so much more than just a monster chasing down somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get like the Entropy in the 80s.
When you hit the 70s, the late 70s and early 80s, more of the visual practical effects. A lot more blood, a lot more gore than before. But what I like what Jen had mentioned earlier, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of the last times where you heard the gore and your mind, which is what made Psycho such a horror movie from Hitchcock. You don't see anything in the shower scene.
That dude was just a fucking genius, though.
Oh yeah.
But everybody remembers it, and some people will tell you through, you know, the Mandela effect. Oh yeah, I remember that knife. I remember her getting. You never saw that.
It doesn't show me.
It was up here. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I feel like we do view as the horror renaissance as the 70s and 80s. In a way, it lost that unseen fear, because if you look back too, the smarter ones, which we've talked about, some of the better directors or writers or something, with some of his kills, you don't actually see the visceral part of him, you know, someone, right? It doesn't need to happen because the fear is built up to the point to when you actually grab them for that last breath before they die. You know what's coming. Your mind plays into it. I saw that blood, you know, that knife hand. I know where it's going. You know what I mean? I think that.
Or when they just show you the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't see the kill, but you see the body.
You'd see the blood in his hand. See, like, I mean, when we're talking like the changes, like Hellraiser was a huge change.
Oh, absolutely.
Gore that hit in the first Hellraiser movie was beyond. I mean, people were like, that should be it. I mean, when he you know comes back to the amount of, you know, practical effects to make his body rise through the floor and was gore to a level that they really didn't have it, you know, back in the 60s. So there's a lot of barrier breaking, boundary breaking when they became, you know, these franchises came out, where I feel like, you know, you mentioned Rob Zombie, he hits on some of the
well, even if you look at that, where I think it was John Carpenter when he did The Thing, you know, that was one of the big times where you see the monster and it's not dark and dim and you're kind of like, what is that? And where it's like in your face and it's gross and it's going after people. I love that.
Oh yeah. And I think that what's great about The Thing was that the practical effects, like you brought up earlier, was just I think that's the issue that I have with a lot of modern horror films today, is that we've kind of lost that practical effect aspect of it, that creativity that, you know, I feel like people really took a lot of joy back in the 70s and 80s doing practical effects and kind of pushing the boundaries and seeing where they could go with it. Because now every day you see just CGI. It's just computer generated, and to me it kind of gets old. It's not
Yeah.
You know, what was fun about the movies from the 70s and 80s is that it's always something just different. Nothing was the same. It didn't have like the same textures, the same look. You know, blood didn't look the same in every movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big fan of movies during the 70s where the blood was just bright red and it would just be like a paint splatter. You know, like in Lone Wolf and Cub, you just see just bright red blood instead of it being, you know, that darker that we like in Dahmer had that one scene with the blood bag and you see how dark the blood is, how realistic it looks. You know, I kind of wish that we could go back to the fakeness.
So if you want to go back to the fakeness in a more recent movie, Terrifier, which I have not got to see either one of them yet, and it's kind of pissing me off that I can't find either one of them right now. But the Terrifier, like I watched the interview. Well, I didn't watch it. I listened to the interview on Jericho's podcast with the director, and he did every practical effect himself. Him and his special effects guy, who happens to be the co-writer and co-director and co-producer on the movie. All the special effects in that movie are done by them. They built everything themselves. And it's still making people throw up and leave the movie theater.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way to go with horror, though. I feel like practical effect is where it all kind of melds together, and that works really well with horror.
But are the people that are going to see these movies like fans? Because I mean, I can put up with a lot before I am like, oh my god, okay, I might have to. I mean,
so
like,
you know, it's funny because if we want to talk about the movies from the 70s real quick, The Last House on the Left, not the remake, fuck the remake, garbage. The original Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
It's more of a psychological thriller. It can happen in real life, and it happens in real life. But that movie, the one scene where we're getting toward the end of the movie, an old girl, I think it was the mother, bit homie's dong off. Like that shit, like the amount of blood and everything, just I was like, what the hell did I just watch? And then there's that movie was wow.
I don't know. There was something with Wes Craven, man. Wes Craven was something else. You know, I think one of his more underrated films is that
People Under
the Stairs.
Fuck yeah.
That's one of my favorite. I actually would say that's my favorite Wes Craven film.
I have that on DVD.
It's just, I always like the character Roach. I like the fact
Roach was amazing, yeah.
I like the fact that there's this one kid that's like running through the walls and helping out the girl that's the only girl that's in the house.
So the newest kidnapping victim is what she is. She doesn't have a name, but she was kidnapped and brought to the house to be the next perfect child. Every kid that's in there and under the stairs at one point was a perfect child to them. Oh, by the way, they're brother and sister. They're not a married couple. They are brother and sister. It's never said, but if you listen to what they say, they don't even have names. They're just, it's woman and man. That's their characters. If you watch the end credits, it's woman and man. So they don't even have names.
But I just always thought it was a trip, though. Like, and you're right, they always were trying to find like the perfect child, but if the child wasn't perfect, they would actually cut off whatever imperfection they deemed it was.
Yep.
So that's why Roach, whenever we see him running around, he's missing a tongue. He can't speak. So it was just something, and I liked the setting of the movie. I felt that it was very claustrophobic while at the same time being artistic. You know, you're inside somebody's house, you're inside somebody's home, you're seeing the stuff that they have going on, and it's just interesting. And the fact that it's also like a look at race, you know, because you have a black kid being the main character, and he's experiencing.
It wasn't done at the time. Like the black guy didn't. He's the first black survivor of a horror movie. Can we just say that?
Like, I wish we could say the guy from the Night of the Living Dead was the first one, but he did die at the very end.
That's what I was about to say. I thought he did die. Like
very
last
end,
minute, like end credits are about to roll, and it's like snipe.
Which sucks, but that broke barriers at the time, though. The fact that you had a black lead, and I like that now we kind of have, you know, black directors. Like, is it Jordan Peele? Is Jordan Peele the one that's doing the like Nope, and is it what was the other one that he did with the
Us? I'm sorry, they was
Us.
Us.
What was the other one where they were taking
Get Out?
over?
Get
yeah,
Out.
That's it.
Get Out? Yeah.
One of the best psychological building movies. And I mean, and when things, you know, you do get rid of those, he was a master of making a red flag that hits you in the head like a hammer. Oh, what the? And then everyone acts normal again. You know, it's like how all of a sudden, you know, peel out like something that would shock the normal person into saying, "Yep, I'm getting in my car." But in the movie, something like that'll happen, and then people, you know, go back to act, and it's almost like the protagonist is sitting there thinking, "Am I crazy for thinking I should?" Kind of what you feel you get from them is like, "What just happened?"
You get that from Jordan Peele from watching Key and Peele, and then he steps out and starts doing horror. Dang, dude! I'm like,
he went from Ron to dropping some of the best horror of the last few years.
Yeah, like I loved Get Out, and honestly, like I was kind of like, I'll try it, and I was like, wow, that was actually really good. I'm like, I enjoyed that a lot.
I still gotta watch his newest one. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll watch Get Out as soon as it hits streaming. Yeah. And I was just like, no way, this is the guy that was doing Key and Peele, and now he's dropping like fire horror movies on us.
But he's definitely a movie buff. Even going back to Key and Peele, you saw so many references that he's a huge movie buff. You know, or like you saw, you know, their zombie stuff that was funny, their alien movie stuff that was funny. They are, you know, consumers of entertainment as well as producers of it. So it what he produces, what he puts out, that he is very knowledgeable of it, and the interaction with people in his productions just make it feel so real. You know.
So I see Brian dropped in chat that he was like, the CGI special effects kind of take away from horror. Yeah. He's like, if you go back and look at the original Amityville, had him shook. And the original Amityville, like all of them, really was good.
Oh, I would put that up there with like my top 5, the original Amityville, just because there were scenes that always like stuck out to me. Like there's the one scene where the mom is taking care of the little girl, and the little girl is talking about her imaginary friend, and then the mom looks outside the window, and in the black you see just 2 lights pop up, and those are, you know, supposed to be eyes. And that just always stuck with me. I thought that was something that was so simple, but always kind of like stuck with you. Like that they really aren't alone, that there really are ghosts in the house, and there are issues that they're dealing with. And then finally the pig that you see at the very end. Like, I thought that was just that's just the way to end a movie like that. You have to have something that's kind of terrifying that you wouldn't expect kind of pop up. And I feel like that's how they made it work for that original Amityville horror. And then I'm not a really big fan of the remake. It kind of made it more, they did a lot of that CGI kind of stuff with the blood, and it just captured the
one with Ryan Reynolds is really when CGI, I feel like, kind of started taking over the horror genre. It's about that time frame. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, like in the 90s, we kind of were getting that first taste, but it was really
bad. It was real. There were some horror movies made in the 90s with CGI that were fucking straight garbage bag trash.
It's like, it's bad.
But you know what movie I thought was made a lot better through makeup and CGI? Like, I thought they blended it really well, was the remake of It. Like, the remake of It, both parts was so much more terrifying. Not that he didn't do a great job. I thought he was like phenomenal, but there was just something about the spider alien, whatever you want to call it. In the end, it was so much
he's a demon.
Terrifying. And the remake,
actually, he's an alien.
Yeah.
Is he an alien? I thought he was a demon.
He's an alien. So what it was that if you go into the lore of It and all that, you find out that he was actually created around the same time that all of creation was built. So what he was that he was this kind of floating being that ended up crashing into Earth, and he crashed into what would become Derry, Maine, and that's where he would reside. But that's why the turtle is so important, because the turtle is kind of the opposing, kind of godlike character that created everything. So it is more like the evil creature, but he is
that turtle makes another appearance in one of Stephen King's other movies. It's like the main focus in one of his other movies.
I think it's The Dark Tower, which I think they kind of deviated away from because what it is that The Dark Tower is like
Dark Tower was a freaking horrible movie. Let's just put it out there.
Which is sad, because the book series is really interesting.
Fucking amazing.
Because I read The Gunslinger and I was like, The Gunslinger is awesome. And then I read the
entire book series is amazing.
And and I like that the movie had everything. Everything is all connected.
Yeah, and we had this discussion earlier. The way Stephen King has managed to interweave every single thing he's ever written is amazing. And we were talking about his son is even doing the same thing.
Oh yeah.
So
I know that Joe Hill, he's been doing quite a bit, especially in the comic world. Like he's done, I know that I saw you guys talk about Lock and Key, but I know that he's also done things like that Hill House comics that he did for DC.
Yep.
Where it was like Refrigerator Full of Heads and trying to think of some of the other titles, but they were all just different horror titles under his imprint. So I think that it's really nice that
he did Nosferatu, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Nosferatu. I think. Yeah. I think he did that with his dad, though. I think his dad was somehow involved in that one.
I think his dad was kind of like because that was really, I think, his first jump into writing a horror book.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say Steven probably kind of was like, hey, dude, let's see where you're going. Let's kind of like maybe he started a little bit. He really didn't, write it per se. But I think he probably gave him some insight and some directions. And that's why you see a lot of Stephen King undertones in it.
Oh, yeah.
In an interview with Joe Hill, he was like, yeah, if you read my stuff, and whether it's a comic book, a book, or whatever it is, everything is interconnected and interlaced to some degree.
Right.
And those interweavings also interweave into his dad's books as well.
Which I think is really interesting. I like whenever they build like expanded universes, and that's something that we see with Marvel, and then we saw even Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith was doing that way before Marvel with the View Askew universe. So
in chat, they said Pennywise the demon is a demon in the original and an alien in the new one.
Yeah, I think in the book he was an alien. That's what it kind of was that he was because that's what I like about the new It, is that it's more tied to how the original novel was, with the way that things pan out, not necessarily the kind of time jumps, because that's how the Tim Curry film was. The Tim Curry film was more along.
Let's just take a second and have an appreciation moment for Tim Curry.
Tim Curry was awesome. Tim Curry.
Dude, that dude's pulled some of the best characters you've ever seen.
He really has, because we've seen him do Legend. He was the Lord of Darkness. He was Dr. Frankenfurter for Rocky Horror. He was in Clue. I'm trying to remember which one he was in Clue.
He was the principal, wasn't he?
I think so.
I'm thinking Clueless.
No, I'm talking the Clue based off the board game. He may have been, he wasn't Colonel Mustard, was he? I don't think he was Colonel Mustard.
Was he?
He was one of them, but I remember him in Clue, and then I remember what else was he in? But anyway, though, Tim Curry, I like how tied he is to the horror aspect of things, and I like how he's always portrayed himself in every film.
Yeah,
it's always something different, but it always has that oomph behind it, that kind of
he puts himself into every character he does.
Yeah. And I feel like he controls the room anytime that he's in character. When Dr. Frankenfurter's in the room, it's like all eyes are on him, nobody else is looking anywhere else.
Yep.
So
he has a real gift for his oratory skills. The way he speaks, it makes a presence. He's an amazing actor.
I
Really
really think Bill Skarsgård brings that to the table as well in his roles that he does.
Oh yeah, I thought him and Barbarian was really good.
So that's on topic for tonight too. And I think we've covered our 5 franchises in no particular order. That was our top 5 franchises. And we'll go. So we had Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Hellraiser. What was our other one?
Texas Chainsaw
Massacre. We'll go with that's our top 5 franchises. And so now I think we're going to look to go into, where do y'all want to go?
Oh, I brought up Barbarian. I would enjoy talking about that.
Okay, so we'll go with you're muted, EJ.
So we'd be talking about the top 5 movies this year. We can, because there's a pretty good lead in with Barbarian.
Yeah, are we going to go just movies of 2022?
Or
do we want to go just movies or movies and shows for 2022?
I think we'd probably mix shows in because I would like to touch on Dahmer as well. I felt Dahmer was one of those shows that really kind of stuck out. Same with Sandman. I feel like Sandman is another show that kind of brought that horror element.
I don't think Dahmer really falls into horror per se, because we're talking real life. And yeah,
I guess so. You're right. It would be more like a.
But we could have a whole show on that crazy bitch. But yeah, so let's roll straight into Barbarian for our top movies and TV shows for 2022 so far. Barbarian was not what I expected.
No,
I was expecting like a fucking barbarian, and that is not what I got. And I'm still trying to figure out why the hell they named the movie Barbarian. But the movie itself was good.
It had twists that I wasn't prepared for. Yeah. And like, I didn't know Justin Long was in the movie. I may have missed any like trailers that he was in, but like,
take a moment for Justin Long to recognize him as a scream queen. Okay.
Oh man, like absolutely. After being in Tusk and in Jeepers Creepers,
I gotta watch Tusk. I haven't watched Tusk yet.
Oh, Tusk, I enjoyed that. I like, for being a modern horror film, and for being a Kevin Smith film on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kevin Smith, but like
Kevin Smith's severely underrated.
But like watching it, I didn't expect to like it, and then I found myself enjoying it as the movie went on, and I felt that it was an interesting kind of like Frankenstein kind of story.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard. I just have not had a chance to sit down and watch it. I did sit down and watch Barbarian today, in between a couple of football games.
I wasn't prepared for Barbarian. Like,
I wasn't either.
It was actually,
it had Bill Skarsgård in it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Bill's our killer. He's our bad guy in this movie.
The living room lights 50%.
Yeah, no shit, Deontay. Barbarian was a fucking acid trip. It was not what, like when. Can we do some spoilers on this shit? Can we spoil some shit?
Oh man, well I've seen it. You say, but I don't know if we want to spoil it.
So Bill Skarsgård head got fucking smashed on that goddamn wall. Pardon my 4-letter words here. I was not ready for that shit. When you finally see who the monster / bad guy is in this movie, holy hell!
Oh, it wasn't what I was prepared for, and just I wasn't prepared for the explanation as to how the monster got to how the monster became. I wasn't prepared for that, and I wasn't prepared for the other villain of the story.
So we never see the other villain again. We see him for that 10-minute snippet, and then he's kind of like gone. But we know he's like the main antagonist, and they've set it up for a number 2, for obvious reasons. But it was crazy. Like,
oh yeah, like I like that. I wasn't prepared for the female abduction aspect of it.
No,
I wasn't prepared for them to be like, oh, there's this guy that's abducting women, and then he's not only abducting them, but he's videotaping them, and he's doing these awful things, and he's a rapist. I don't know if they necessarily say he's a killer. To those women particularly, I know that what it ended up happening was the inbreeding stuff. So that's why I'm confused on whether or not he really killed the women or if they just died.
I think they died in birth. Is kind of what yeah, it's kind of what I was taking from it. Is that he was impregnating them? Well, what would eventually become his own children, grandchildren?
It's something like maybe even great grandchildren, because they said that it was a cause of inbreeding that it was.
Yeah,
and the look was just disgusting. Even
like
for
the
it being
superhuman strength. Like if you go back to Wrong Turn, which is a great fucking movie. I love me some Eliza Dushku.
I enjoy the first one. I enjoy the first Wrong Turn. After
that,
it kind of
falls off. Others never
happened.
We'll just focus on Wrong Turn 1. Yeah, let's focus on what Eliza Dushku gave us, okay? But that inbred fucking strength, where it comes from, I don't know. Who knows? But it was very much that type of strength that they had in Wrong Turn, you know? I don't know what it is about some inbreeding shit, but I guess it makes people super fucking human, because that lady was super fucking human.
Oh, yeah, and just... I like that she was actually, like, terrifying. I like that it was... She was this tall, unstoppable thing, and, like, the fact that she was naked throughout the whole movie also made it unsettling. Just the fact that, like, everything is all hanging out.
Yeah, and she was living in the dark basement of tunnels.
Oh, yeah, and then the fact that she would come out at night.
Yeah.
Freaked me out too. I was like, oh man, that's even more fucked up.
And I was reading kind of like the synopsis of it, and this does take place in Detroit, in the rundown ghettos of Detroit. And you see the people living on the streets, and the police there just did not give one single fuck. None whatsoever.
No, that was another thing that was like, are you serious?
It hits some real life stains in there when it comes to some of it. But then, like I said, there's that 10 to 15 minutes where the guy is grocery shopping to deliver, like, for supplies to deliver a baby. You're like, what the fuck? Where the hell is this coming from?
Right?
But then you go back, like, oh, the lady living in the tunnels is watching breastfeeding and how to take care of babies. Like, that's some constant loop in her cave.
Oh, yeah. And oh man, it was just, and the fact that like he had multiple different women, and that's what you see in like that scene where Justin Long is in the room with him, and he comes across all the videotapes and he sees how many women he did this to, and you see how long this has been happening. And that,
who was the fucking guy on the bed?
That was him. That was the guy that was in the videos.
Yeah, but his son was the one you see. I guess it's his son that was going to the grocery store.
No, that was him. That was him going to the grocery store. He had lived that long. That was him.
Oh, so that was a flashback.
Yeah, that was a flashback. That's why all the houses looked really nice. And when he talked to his neighbor, the neighbor was like, I'm putting up a for sale sign. We're moving out of the neighborhood. Okay. The neighborhood's getting bad. So
that makes sense now. So
that's why the guy, even like the homeless guy, was like, she's not the only bad guy in the house. She's not the worst thing in the house, because he was still alive. And then that's why we see him kill himself at the very end, is that he's finally been caught and he can't do anything about it because he's too old.
And he's dying.
He's clearly at the end of his ropes. Yeah. And if anything were to happen, he can just, that was his easy way out.
Gotcha. That makes more sense, because I was trying to figure out, like, that 15 minutes of movie just did not fucking fit anywhere.
Oh yeah, that was them trying to explain that he was the guy that was abducting women, and then that's why the inbreeding started to happen, was because he would then, I guess, further with the children of the women that he would do it with, and then it would just go further and further, and then finally we get what we see as the monster and barbarian.
So I mean, the name starts to make a little bit more sense to some degree.
Oh yeah. Well, when I think of barbarian, I think of like Conan.
Yeah, me too, and that's what I was expecting.
I think of something that's like a savage. I think of something that's like disgusting, and I think that's what they were going for with the monster, was that she was this savage beast, but she still had that consciousness that was like, I want to be a mother. That's why at the very end, when you see her jump off and save our main character, that's her doing that like consciously. She knows that that's what she's here for. She wants to be a mother.
Yeah, she has to protect her child.
Oh yeah, and the ending kind of threw me off. I expected.
I thought Justin Long was going to survive. I thought he was going to be our lone survivor.
Oh man, I definitely got the Jeff news though. Like for what he'd done in the movie and just just him throwing her off. That was it. Like I felt like okay, he was like,
"Oh, you slipped. I tried to save you."
I was almost at a point where I was like, you could have almost been redeemable, because you saw him apologize on the phone and he was trying to, he clearly understands that he did wrong and he's trying to do something better about it. But instead of doing something better about it, he further makes mistakes and he just puts himself into this deeper hole. And I think that's why it comes back around at the very end that he's not going to make it. And that's why
his death was so fucking gross, man.
Oh yeah, just the split, seeing that kind of
peeling popping an apple. You stick your thumbs in the apple and just peel it apart. Yeah, it's definitely in a top 5 of just gross murders.
Oh yeah, and I like that there weren't very many we don't see a lot of victims. Like we see that there were a lot of people that were affected by it, but throughout the movie we only see really 3 characters or 4 characters really be affected by the barbarian woman.
Yes.
So it was Justin Long's character, Bill Skarsgård's character. I can't remember her name, but the female lead.
Tess? Was it Tess? Something like that?
I think it was Tess. I think that's who she was. And then, of course, the homeless guy.
Yeah. Oh, that was, dude, to have your own arm ripped off and then beaten to death with it.
Oh man, it felt very.
What a fucking way to go! What a way to go! I mean, shit. He's like, oh, she's never come in here before.
Right, but it was definitely a lot of fun. It was a pleasant surprise. It felt like the first horror movie in a long time that felt new. It felt interesting.
Yeah, it was Deontay. His death was hilarious. Because it was so fucking out of nowhere. Oh, as soon as he's like, oh, she's never coming here. And it's like, boom.
And it was, oh, man. But it was, and I liked the comedy that they had in the film. I like that the comedy was very subtle, but it wasn't overpowering.
They didn't try to inject too much of it. It wasn't injected in like bad moments or to try to lightheart a moment. It was like it would. Yeah, she was. It's like she was waiting for that fucking moment for him to say, "Oh, she's never coming here." But yeah, I think we beat that movie to death. Literally, it's a fun movie. I mean, I know we've said a lot about it, and we probably, hopefully, we didn't ruin it too bad. But yeah, the name does not do it justice because you're not getting a barbarian. I mean, you are to some degree, but it's not the barbarian you think you're getting.
I think that's how you should definitely do like a horror film, though. I think that the title shouldn't always allude to what we see in the film. It's kind of like Midsummer or what was that other one? Hereditary. I feel like that's kind of the way that horror should be kind of moving in, because horror does have to evolve. That's what we're seeing, and that's why we went from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s. We see how horror became kind of what it is today, where we have either the just shock horror or we have that kind of B-movie horror, and it's just we found all these different avenues to go with horror, and I think that it's interesting to see where we're at today.
Yeah, Deontay's reminding us, don't go too deep. We got an ass load of stuff. So with that being said, Deontay, thank you, good sir. And so let's go to Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which I think is, we get that old school feel with new school flair.
100%.
And we get that Alfred Hitchcockian presenter, like the way he presents himself to start the telling of the stories. Very much Alfred and Vincent Price-esque feel to him before the start of each story, which I found very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like
it's almost like the Twilight Zone too, where it kind of has like an ominous beginning of the story.
Yes, and it took me back to me being a child, sitting there with my grandma watching the Twilight Zone when I shouldn't be up, and I can't sleep. But I'm watching the fucking Twilight Zone, and that's why I probably can't sleep to begin with. So, and that's what it gave me. I really enjoyed that nostalgic feel before it got to the story, in which the stories were really retellings of stories that we've seen in the past or we've read from stuff, whether it's H.P. Lovecraft, a comic book, R.L. Stein, what have you. And that's literally what it gave to us. And it was refreshing to see and to feel that. So you had that nostalgic mix with that new school flair. So what bees it, people? How'd y'all feel?
I haven't seen it yet, so you guys.
Oh, okay. I know Jen's been vibing on it.
It's definitely this year's most impressive anthology series that's come out. I mean, a couple of people throw those out every once in a while. You get it with the After Dark Film Festival when they do it.
Yep.
You'll get like the Oat Studio did theirs, which was pretty good. But
and there was one that would just come out recently. It was like, was it this year or last year? The all-female writer, producer, director.
Yeah, it was a year or two ago. I know what you're talking about. It was,
those were really good too.
Yeah, so I mean, this one though seems more like on track with
like old school.
The old school, like The Outer Limits. Tales from the Crypt. Along those lines of, hey, we got a different director. It may be a story you're familiar with. It may be the kind of scenes and so forth that are familiar. You've read H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, before pretty much every episode, they have Del Toro tell you, hey, it's this guy. It's based on H.P. Lovecraft, or it's, which is pretty much everything that's been shown. But seeing someone else's take or them presenting it to you like that was very interesting, and the production value, the level of which the dedication to try to present you with something good. Because, I mean, we've all seen anthologies. I don't know if everybody remembers Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Monsters. Monsters was an 80s kind of.
Like Tales of Terror.
When you talk about production value failures, those are production value failures. Where suddenly you're like, this is a pretty good story. And then they turn out...
and it wasn't overdone with CGI either.
And you're like, this just totally hit the toilet. So, but they avoid that with this series. They definitely put out the effort, and it shows.
And I would not be mad if Netflix and Guillermo did this every fucking Halloween season.
Right.
Yeah, like we
this to me
back in the day. You used to have a fear, what was it? They used to have the fear watch or whatever on AMC every October.
Yep.
They used to
USA
have
Network used to have horror movies at night. You'd have Elvira.
What about the
Elvira or Gilbert Godfrey Presents?
Gilbert Godfrey presents. Yeah.
They had the After Dark films.
Yeah, After Dark. I mean, every year, but then that's kind of all fallen off, and we end up getting a lot of regurgitated horror. I feel like. I mean, I've listened to you guys talk about Barbarian, and it sounds like that might be pretty interesting, as in a different avenue.
It is.
As far as slashers, I mean, we've really beaten that horse to death. I mean, they even brought Scream back, and Scream.
And we didn't need that shit. We really did not need
slasher movies. So,
and that's just a money grab to me. Once you start bringing shit back like that, that's a money grab. Like, hey, we haven't seen the fucking dude from Scream in a while. Let's bring him back.
Well, and it seems like every time they do it, I'm like, oh, okay, who is it this time? Like, who's mad about that kid's death this time around?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you know, like,
Okay.
I know what you did last summer.
yeah.
Yeah.
In the summer
Which,
before
by the
that,
way, could be up there with the franchises, but we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But no, so the Cabinet of Curiosities, if y'all have not, sit down to enjoy it. Sit down and enjoy it. Episode 7's a little trippy, like Jen had mentioned. Like,
I couldn't get through it.
like I've seen it somewhere before, and I can't put my finger on it quite yet. I will eventually. I'll probably be at work this week. You go, all right, oh fuck, that's where that's from. But it never fails. But so we do get, what's his name from Harry Potter, Rupert
Grint.
Yeah, I thought his episode was very well done.
Yeah.
And
yeah, even the ones I wasn't too, I didn't.
The last
enjoy that much,
episode,
like
in the series, is based on The Birds, I believe, is the name of it. But I thought even that one was very well done. It's not really scary or jump screamy or anything like that. It's just a very well told story, I think. It's not, like I said, it's not scary per se. I mean, you do get a ghost in it, and you've seen it 100 fucking times, but it's the way it was done that really, really did it. So,
you know the one that which one was it? The autopsy one.
yes.
You know what that actually reminded me of? Do you remember the 80s movie called The Hidden?
It sounds familiar.
So it's the gosh, I'm trying to. Do you remember the main character off the old Dune? What was his name? Kyle.
Yeah, he was on Twin Peaks.
Yeah, he's on.
Yeah,
Twin
yeah.
Peaks.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he was in this movie back in the 80s called The Hidden, and he was chasing an alien that used to take over people's bodies, like the alien that was in this show. And I remember every time we watched an episode, I'm like, oh, it kind of reminds me of this. Oh, it kind of reminds me of that. But I thought it was, every time that they did it, it was so tastefully done that I didn't mind like watching something kind of similar, but
yeah.
But
I think there was an
different.
episode of the X-Files very similar to this one as well.
Which one was that?
The one with the alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I have.
Yeah.
That fucking movie was creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was creepy.
Yeah.
And that whole movie.
That's another avenue where I feel like they took an idea that was different and they definitely knocked it out the park, you know. But I think we all have that sense of the mortuary or the morgue or anything having that.
Just the vibe of mortuary gives.
Yeah, a vibe.
Fucking weird.
Even if it doesn't scare you, it's still got that feeling.
You still get that skin crawling feel on you, though.
I mean, I work in a hospital. I mean, there's unfortunately sometimes where I have to go to the morgue. And let me tell you, as long as I've been doing my job, I mean, I still walk in there and it still kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. And that's what it is. You get like the
Yeah.
hair on your neck stands up, your skin crawls a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think watching that entire autopsy episode, that's the vibe. Like,
Yeah.
and then you hear the sounds coming from the meat locker, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, Tommy, I think you'll enjoy it. You'll definitely,
it's really good.
hearing your views on horror, you'll definitely find something along that anthology that you'll like. I mean,
Will was like, I
think
screamed like a
bit
little
for
bitch
everybody.
during that one.
Man, I gotta check this out.
You know, the other episode that I had a really hard time with was the aloe glow one with the lotion.
Yes. And that one, so it's not scary. It's
Be careful what you wish for kind of thing.
yeah, it all about vanity and what vanity fucking does to people.
I mean, it was that awkward, like, I don't know how to, awkward reality kind of, like you're trying to think of a movie that's similar to it. like, moments in Edward Scissorhands where it becomes surreal amongst the people of the neighborhood. Like it's almost like an abstract dream that even though everything is normal, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, Beetlejuice. There's parts of Beetlejuice like that.
It's conveyed in a way that nobody looks scary. Nothing crazy is going on, but it tugs at you inside as the terror beneath the surface kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one creepy fucking scene I can say, I mean, aside from her fucking smashing homie with an axe, like when she goes back downstairs and it's like the lotion is alive.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? Well, what's going on?
Is it or is it up here?
And I kept thinking the whole thing's in her fucking head.
I thought
that's the whole thing I thought about the entire time. Is like, this is just in her head. None of this is really real. And I think toward the end of it, at the end where she kind of does that weird pause screen and she's staring at the screen, and you're kind of like, well, I think reality just kind of sit in on her.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we all, I mean, Tommy hadn't seen it, but we all kind of agreed.
Watch it, Tommy.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
Pretty good. How about
I mean, it took me 3 days.
We got Stranger Things this year, and that's definitely a horror show.
I didn't. So after season 2, I lost all interest. I couldn't watch season 3. I tried to get back into it. It took too long. It took too long for season 3 to come out.
Yeah.
And I just lost the interest in it.
Stupid COVID.
Season 2 was the worst season.
It really was. It was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But
that's why they never went back to her friends in the city, because nobody cares. It was one of those like, nobody cares.
Well,
yeah.
I thought that
was completely irrelevant. Like the whole city thing and her trying to track down where the fuck she's from. Yeah. Completely
I want
irrelevant.
that time back in my life. That's what I want.
Please.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I dug the most recent season though. I thought was pretty good though.
That's what my daughter said. I need to sit down and watch 3 and 4 eventually.
3 and 4, just forget 2 happened.
They just kind of felt like
hard to fucking forget that.
It almost felt like a return back to that first season with 3 and 4.
Yeah,
it kind of felt they were doing that D&D stuff. It finally felt like it was kind of getting back to what that first one caught with the 80s feel and the
good. I have to sit down and watch it then.
Yeah, it fed the nostalgia again. It was definitely worth it. The fact that all the original actors and stuff still stick around, and they bring it to life for us, and it's good. It was a good watch.
Oh yeah, and I like how things are kind of wrapping back around. Like we're finally seeing stuff with Hopper. We're finally seeing but we're seeing kind of that moving forward aspect in the season. That kind of
definitely
they're trying to get away from everything that's happened, and it's just sucking them back in to do it all over again.
Yeah, so one of my, I mean, that was. I feel that's the whole point of this season was moving forward, moving towards future, the end, or not the end, but the future of they got to live. There's got to be life after just Hawkins, horror.
Yep.
So and the way Jeff used to explain, you like how things get linked together, especially like King's writings. You'll kind of like to see once you catch back up. You'll kind of like how they made everything at least come full circle enough where you're like, oh, okay, that's why they did that, or oh, that's who that is, or that's how she did that. It goes back enough to give you enough of that anchoring, and hey, here's some connection lines to the beginning, and then we're shooting for the future, the end game.
So we know Hopper was in the military. And we know he became the sheriff of the town. But and this is going to be a good segue into the next movie we're going to talk about. In the first Predator, there is a Hopper. They find his dog tags. This is one of my favorite theories. Even though it's not true, I read another thing that said, oh, it's not the same thing. But it's still cool to think about. It's the same Hopper in Stranger Things that was in the first Predator.
No I hope not, because I love Hop, and that would be terrible. Because
I do too. And that's just one of my favorite theories, because all they found was the dog tags. They didn't find Hopper's body, and they're like, "Oh well, Hopper has a way of getting out of things." And I was like, "That's fucking Hopper from Stranger Things. He gets out of everything." But on to the Predator. Let's talk about Prey.
I think it was the best in the franchise,
hands down.
Straight up, like, and I had a discussion with somebody who had an issue with the way that the Predator looked, and to me, I had an issue with the fact that they kind of did the CGI over the Predator, because if you look at the actual practical stuff, he definitely looks more primal, and it definitely kind of recaptures that look that the original Predator had, where he was kind of wet and kind of slimy, and he had that kind of glistening look to his skin, and the black kind of hair kind of things that are coming out of him had that kind of shine to him. So I felt that was the only mistake I feel like they had with the Prey movie, was that they shouldn't have done any CGI over the Predator itself, because I feel like the Predator with the practical effects look perfect.
Yeah. And it's one of those where you have to think this is a prequel to everything that's already happened.
Oh yeah.
So the way I looked at it was like, the Predator has evolved to some degree to where he's at in the modern franchise per se, in the most recent movie. But if the Predator that we got in Prey is the Predator we should have had in Prey.
Oh yeah.
I think as he went further, seasons got longer, and they, you know, how they started splicing human DNA and other DNA into the Predator genome was basically, we got the bigger, stronger, taller, faster Predators.
Yeah, there's 3 subspecies of the Yanta or whatever the name of the Predator species. You see that in Predators with Adrian Brody. Those 2 factions.
Honestly, that was not a good movie, but it gave you more details of to what they are.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that movie. And
I did
well. I thought it
shows the Berserker version versus the standard jungle version that we're all used to.
Mm-hmm.
And then this version, the feral version, is supposed to be yet another, just like, like almost racial divisions between them, or subspecies of the same, overall arcing predators.
Yep.
So he doesn't look the same, but if you take his face with the mask off, and then you take one of the ones from Predators, and then you take one, the jungle one, and you take the wolf predator from AVP, all of them have slight variations, kind of like you would with, different species of, or different types of, let's say, lizards, like monitor lizards. You could probably take 2 different monitor lizards, and there's one that lives in a tropical climate versus one that lives in a, semi-arid climate, may be different looking,
No,
same deal.
And I love the movie. I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit nobody. If anybody says that movie sucked, they ain't got no fucking taste.
No, that was an excellent. I mean,
and I like that it wrapped back around to Predator 2, which was like, we finally figure out where the gun came from.
Mm-hmm.
It'd been a mystery that we'd been waiting for since the second movie came out.
20 plus years, no, fucking 30 years at this point.
Oh yeah, and it was nice seeing that kind of wrap.
Will said that movie sucked. Like, come on, dude. Come on, Will.
I love that movie.
I thought the movie was awesome. And
hell, I enjoyed Prometheus.
Prometheus I enjoyed too. I feel like, because you have to, when you look at the Alien movies, like disregard AVP.
Yeah.
Like AVP doesn't matter in the Alien franchise.
No.
In the Predator franchise, it's all canon.
Yeah.
But for the AVP, like for the Alien franchise, it's not. So that's what I liked about Prometheus, and Alien Covenant I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I thought Alien Covenant was just a return back to that kind of horror that we saw in the first film. And I really liked the H.R. Geiger kind of look that they were doing, and that's why I like the Alien movies and kind of that return to that, instead of it just being all action packed. It's like that eerie, that slimy, that disgusting kind of, that look
we got
to
with
it.
Ripley and the original Alien.
Oh yeah, and that's what I would love to see us return back to, is that kind of otherworldly look that the xenomorphs bring with them. That wherever they go, it's like this infestation takes over, and it changes the physical landscape. It changes the vegetation and the wildlife around them. That's what I really liked about Alien Covenant, was that we saw like the spores.
Yep.
The spores started to affect people and it started to change them. And it's just something that I feel like could really be built upon. And I'd like to see more of it. So I'm wondering when we're going to get another Alien film moving forward.
I think we will. More sooner than later, I think. So what else do we have for that's come out so far this year from the horror standpoint that we should look into for the best horror film of 2022 or show?
I would put Sandman in there. I feel like Sandman had quite a bit of horror elements to it that really kind of bring it into the horror world, especially with that episode 6. Not episode 6. It would actually, I think episode 4 or 5 was that 24-hour diner episode.
Yes.
And that one was just, I felt it translated well from the page to the screen. I felt like that was one of the few adaptations that really did it well and kind of captured what the comic was trying to do.
There were so many episodes where you could literally sit there with the book open and follow it word for fucking word.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. And Death, the girl that done Death, man, she was
God, that was
amazing. And then Lust, also the dude.
They just pulled the.
I can't say dude, can I? I had this.
Desire.
Desire.
Desire is whatever it appears to whomever they're looking at.
The person that played Desire was phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing. Just like what they brought to the character is what you get in the comic book. And the Sandman, he is he's naive in the comic book too. He really is. He's aware, but he's not aware of what is going on. Like he is, but he isn't. His only concerns is what's around him and what he affects.
Are you able to click on the comments?
No. You see what Deontay said? He said,
"Death is my baby."
Yeah.
You owe $75K in child support. Well, bruh, you might want to get on top of that one, man.
But I felt like Death surprised me because that one was one that you really had to. That was one of the characters that were either going to make or break the show, because Death is so beloved by comic book readers.
Dude, I have a whole box of her comic books, like many of the different Death storylines.
Oh yeah, I have like the mini, like the High Cost of Living, the Girl
High
Who
Cost of
Become
Living.
Death.
I have that signed.
I do too, by Chris Bocciolo, and I got like this certificate of death with it, so that was pretty cool with it too.
And then if you could see, I'm sitting in the dark, but on the shelf in the back, I have all my graphic novels for the Sandman. 1 through 5.
Up on my nerd kind of bookshelf that I got over here to the side, I have a Sandman #1 on top, just kind of chilling up
then
there.
I have like underneath my desk here is like underneath this desk and along the back wall, I have boxes of just comic books, and I got a lot of stuff from Tinian, like boom right here, signed, autographed, slabbed, Department of Truth, signed by Tinian. This is a great comic book, by the way.
Yeah, I've been trying to get into
the
that
book.
one.
If you can find the book, read the book. If you're into conspiracy theories, this is the one to go to.
Oh yeah, but Tinian's actually become like a writer that has grown on me. Tom King is another writer that has grown on me lately. Same with like Chip Zdarsky. I feel like he's one that came out of nowhere for me. That it was like I read his Daredevil stuff and I was like, "That's how."
A lot of these guys. Okay, first of all, I hated fucking COVID. I hated it. But what COVID did was create a fucking boom in the comic book industry, period. Like it went from, kind of almost fluttering to like this gigantic boom again. And that's why we're getting the Sandman now, is because people are going back and are like, oh, damn, these were great stories.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been
waiting
for the Sandman for 20 plus years. Like they were wanting to do a Sandman movie back when the comic first came out.
Yeah, well, he would never let them do it because they wanted to take creative control away from him.
Oh yeah,
like,
because
fuck no,
I
you're
think what
not
Neil
taking
Gaiman
shit
really
from
did back
me.
then was he really pushed the limits with, he added a lot of like transgender characters were in the story, gay characters were in the story. He was really dealing with like societal issues at a time that societal issues weren't really being
You look at
dealt
what
with.
he wrote with Constantine, or Constantine, I should say. In the TV show, he gave us a female Constantine, which is what we presume to be the granddaughter or maybe even the daughter of Constantine. Hell, it could even be his daughter, or it could be his sister's daughter.
That was completely different. So what happened with Constantine, with Joanna, is that it was a rights issue. It was more so Neil Gaiman owned the rights to Joanna Constantine. He doesn't own the rights to John Constantine. So instead, he just gender
DC
swapped
still
it.
owns John?
Well, DC will always own John. John is their property. But since Joanna Constantine was his creation, what he decided to do was that instead of trying to fight for the right for John Constantine, they just gender swapped it. So the Joanna Constantine that we see is just the gender swap version of John Constantine. But her ancestor, the Joanna Constantine that we see during that kind of
the 100 year or whatever.
Yeah, the 100-year guy. Yeah. That is from the issue 13 of Sandman. That is supposed to be John Constantine's ancestor. So they've kind of changed it, so they just made it so that John is Joanna this time.
So that episode was another one of those episodes that was almost a tearjerker because it did follow the comic book, and it was just a beautifully written story.
Oh yeah, I just wish that we saw a bit more of like the horror aspect in that one.
I think if we get to season 2, I think we will get that. So send a prayer up to the Netflix gods that we get a season 2.
I think the tone of the first season kind of stayed more towards the fantasy side of it instead of going more towards horror.
And if you go back to his early stuff, that's kind of where he was with it. He didn't really get really dark until much later.
Oh no, issue 6 was that 24-hour diner. It was always dark from the very beginning.
It was
24-hour diner was like
season.
You saw that
not just one episode.
In general wasn't. Yeah, you had the dark, like the diner was dark, and when they go more into oh man, I'm already losing the what was the serial killer?
Oh, the Corinthian,
yeah.
Those moments showed the darkness, but from the very beginning, I think they tried to keep it as fantasy, like Jen said, or open, so more casual fans will hook in, and then you can go, because in the beginning they steered away from the nightmare side of Sandman's reality, more so to just dream in general, being a general idea of a reality outside of your conscious reality. They didn't want, they didn't focus on the dark side of that as much as possible. I don't think until they actually got probably this episode 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Then it slowly starts to tilt in that direction. So people are like, oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Dreams encompass nightmares, they encompass terror, they encompass, So I think that you probably get more of that in the second season if the following loves that enough to draw it out, because right now they could stick with it being still just slightly dark and people would probably still watch it.
They would.
Although from the writing it can go really dark. So
really, really dark. Really fast.
I think that a lot of that's going to be what makes the series successful, what people are waiting to see, what more do they want to know. And I think it'll grow that they want to know more about Sandman in general.
There's some.
Then they can delve deeper.
There's some stories with battles of the Sandman and the Devil in the comic book that will blow your fucking minds away. The one battle they showed.
My favorite episodes was the simple way they did that battle.
That was awesome.
That was amazing.
They actually have some full-on physical battles too that are just ridiculous in the books.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the next story.
Outstandingly written.
Yeah,
it was better than most iterations I've ever seen of the Devil confronting someone.
Yes,
the level to which their fight happened was amazing,
and it was a tearjerker. Like no kidding, that episode. is so well done from a writing and from a acted standpoint that it was beautiful. Like, damn, it was good. So have we covered what else has 22 gave us from the horror genre? I mean, it's been a pretty good year for the horror genre.
Did anybody watch Interview with the Vampire?
Not the new one?
Yeah, the new series.
Is it out?
Yeah.
What's it on?
It's on AMC.
Ah, okay.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I don't have AMC.
I have AMC. I just didn't realize it was out. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about it. I just didn't realize it dropped yet.
They did about.
How many episodes are they in?
A month ago. They released all of it at once, and it's different from the book. It kind of goes back to where Louis is wanting to retell his story to the original Boyle that did it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of him kind of playing like the victim the first time around, like he did in the actual book, he's actually making it to where like he was more like in love with Lestat.
Yeah.
And so instead of Louis being like a white like plantation owner this time around, you know, he's a black man that's living in New Orleans basically. Mm-hmm. And it kind of changes like the whole tone of the story. I think it was something you guys were talking about too, like with Sandman, how it might have been more well received in this era because they had like transgender characters and probably homosexual characters, and the
Neil Gaiman's always written that way. He
wrote, he's kind of like
John Constantine is a bisexual.
Yeah.
John Constantine's been a bisexual since the 80s.
Yeah, but like the Interview with the Vampire, the only thing I can really remember from Anne Rice, and anybody remembers differently, please say so in the comments. But the only thing that I really remember that Anne Rice talked about was that, you know, all she mentioned was Lestat and Louis were lovers. They never really got into details, but in the series, it goes into way more detail. It doesn't leave anything really hidden. So it kind of felt like them kind of redoing it and like retelling the story is actually probably doing it more justice than like the actual movie did. And,
yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'm a big Anne Rice guy. I love Anne Rice's vampire series.
Yeah. And the guy that they got to play Lestat, man, he's awesome.
Who's playing the Queen of the Damned? Tell me that.
Amazing improvement. I mean, I'm biased. Tom Cruise ruins everything for me. So
thank you.
Yeah, except for Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah. I really liked Edge of Tomorrow.
Really
that movie is awesome.
That replaced
that one was all right. Same with like The Last Samurai. The Last Samurai was also okay.
I like The Last Samurai.
So
but other than that, like Tom Cruise.
Best horror TV show of 2022. What do y'all got?
I wanted to ask. I already asked Jeff. I wanted to ask Tommy. Have you seen From?
No.
That show.
It's on the list.
I can't wait for both of you to watch it. I would really like to hear your take on it. I would say it's reminiscent of the unknowns of Lost. Like in the beginning when Lost was very, very like mysterious. Mm-hmm. It's got that, but a lot more fear. And the building of that fear and the it's kind of that old school, you don't get to see why you're scared yet until it draws you into the story. And I think you guys would really like, I'd really like to hear you see your views. That, and I don't know if either of you watched Yellow Jackets, but I heard that was actually pretty good. It was like I
haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, so I know that's got a lot of buzz going on. It's like Lord of the Flies with a girls team, a soccer team or volleyball team or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's a more supernatural side, I guess, having more influence, like beyond just the Lord of the Flies psychological influence, more of a actual influence. So, but there's a lot of buzz on that. American Horror Story, of course, always has a season come out, and I don't think they failed to impress for the most part.
They've had a couple of seasons that were
really love
that weren't good.
I don't know. I really enjoyed the first 4, and that was about it for me.
I was
because I really liked Freak Show. Freak Show was
really good.
That was like really fun, and then like especially like the musical moments that you saw in like Freak Show. Those I think really solidified it as being one of my favorite seasons.
So for me on the 2022 TV show, I'm gonna go with the Cabinet of Curiosities with a very, very fucking close second of the Sandman for TV show. Now for my movie for 2022, man, I still really don't want to call anything so far. I did enjoy Prey. Barbarian, I thought was really good. I still got to watch the new Halloween.
As do I.
And I still want to see the Terrifier 1 and 2.
Me too.
But I'm still too early for me to call it a horror movie for 2022 right now. So I'm going to leave that one as we'll circle back.
That's how I feel too. That's how I feel about it too. But from what I've seen, I think I like Barbarian a bit more than Prey, just because it was a surprise. It was something that came out of nowhere that was like, okay, this is something different and that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So I thought
you knew what the ultimate confrontation is going to be in Prey.
Yes,
but you didn't in Barbarian. You know?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I really thought this would be one of the ones where the bad guy might actually win in Barbarian. Like, that's where I thought it was going.
Right.
And that, I mean, we didn't really get that at the end of it, but that's the way it felt.
But TV show wise, though, I'd have to say Sandman. But I'm kind of biased because, like, Preacher's my favorite comic of all time, and then Sandman would be a close second. Just because it's something that feels genuine and real, and it feels like you can connect with these characters, and it draws you in like you're in this world that you just want to keep digging into, and sometimes it even makes you look at your own reality and be like, maybe this is the way it is.
And then you have to look at what else that gave us. So the Sandman universe gave us Constantine, it gave us Preacher. I mean,
no. Sandman didn't do Sandman. What it did was that it definitely caused the Vertigo imprint.
Yes.
You know, without Sandman, but Swamp Thing gave us Constantine. Swamp Thing was definitely like, because his first appearance.
Constantine is in Swamp Thing. Oh, I know. Yeah. Trust me, I'm about to buy the comic book off for $500 worth.
So like Swamp Thing was definitely. I think Swamp Thing was really what started that Vertigo stuff, and then that's
Constantine is in the Sandman universe. He is just unnamed at the time. So Constantine did not get a name until his first appearance in the Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
but he's like always been around.
In issue 4 or 3. I think issue 3 of Sandman is when he first shows up.
What? Yeah, Abby got fed.
But
no, she needs to probably go out.
Definitely, like, you know, without Sandman, we wouldn't have gotten like Preacher, which is its own thing, and then we wouldn't have gotten like Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison, which was, I think, incredible. I think everybody should sit down and read Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol because it's just so fun. It's so out there. It's so different, and that's what I really miss about the '90s with Vertigo, was that it was just something that was so out of.
So we do have DC Dark Label now, which replaced Vertigo.
Yeah, but
they're starting to produce a lot more stuff.
The issue that I have with it is that they use a lot of superhero characters still, though. What I liked about Vertigo was that, like, Preacher didn't have any superheroes.
Well, he was he had an omnipotent god living inside of him.
Oh yeah, but that was what was great about Preacher, was that Preacher was like, he had this other living being within him that was equivalent to God. And that was what was interesting about Preacher.
He was the offspring of a angel and a devil.
Oh yeah. And
so if you haven't watched Preacher, it's got some slow moments in it, but it's worth to sit down. It's on AMC.
Oh yeah, and if anything, read the book, man.
Yeah, the book is phenomenal. Find the omnibuses.
It's so wonderful. Like it became my favorite book the first time I read it. I was like, okay, just from the characters, like, I mean, you get the Irish vampire Cassidy. You get
that character probably made the show for me.
Oh, Cassidy is amazing. Even in the comic, he's amazing. But I like the depth that you get in the comic for Cassidy, because Cassidy is a lot more of a deeper character than just being the drug addict and all that. Our space was Oh man, if you read like the actual like his origin and all that in the comics, completely different from in the show. It's not a lover, it's not anything like that. He and his friend are like idolizers of Kurt Cobain. And when Kurt Cobain killed himself, his friend
All right, we got to be
convinces
moving
him.
on. Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Jen, EJ, what's your votes for the best of 22 so far? TV show and movie.
I don't know about the movie. It's hard. I've seen so many this year that I've really liked, but they haven't quite hit number one yet.
Yeah.
I would have to say that probably I'm the same. The Sandman and Cabinet of Curiosities comes like a close second. Just because of Sandman, I love how he embraces both of like his dualities as being dream and then also being a nightmare too. And him just kind of like rediscovering himself after being imprisoned for so long. I think they picked like Tom Skerritt did such a great job doing that. So I look forward to hopefully them doing many more seasons of that.
EJ, you with Jen?
As far as movies, I feel like if I'm going with horror so far, I mean, we've all kind of agreed there's still openness. I mean, we've got stuff just now coming out at the end of the month.
Yep.
You know, so but from what I've seen so far, I'd have to give it to the Hellraiser remake or the Hellraiser reboot. Horror. I'm going to straight horror. Okay.
Yep.
Prey is a better movie, but it's science fiction / horror. Whereas Hellraiser is not. It's not / anything. It's horror.
It's straight horror. Yeah.
Okay. That's what they're coming with. That's what they're giving you. You know, it's horror. So I went with that. As far as shows, I'm still going to go with From. As far as horror,
Okay.
I love Sandman. Sandman was probably the best series I've seen released on streaming this year. But it's not pure horror. It's a lot of different things. It encompasses so much more, and it's more on a dramatic scale than most horror ever usually achieves. So I put Sandman in a different category. He does have horror, but he encompasses way too much for that. And the Cabinet of Curiosities falls in anthology. If I'm just going to compare anthologies, I mean, anthologies have a different way than to bite off against series. Okay, a series is going to carry on with a storyline. You know, to me, From and Stranger Things, we're battling it out in my head, but From being brand new as far as its ideas and what I saw of it won for me. But Stranger Things would be next, and Cabinet of Curiosities, I give it props, but it's an anthology. If we were comparing anthologies, that'd be different. It'd be the top, but it's not a series. It's much easier to convey a short story than it is to convey a whole 10-episode series. You know, you're when you're trying to keep the horror going, keep the fear, keep the suspense. 1 hour's a lot easier than 10 hours.
No,
so,
that's very true. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what I call From was definitely the best one for me this year.
All right, so next up, let's look at. You want to go the top 5 antagonists of all time? Or we want to do favorite horror author and director?
I think we've already touched on the favorite horror author and director in a way when we talked about the franchises.
Yeah.
That kind of overlaps because a lot of them are from the best horror guys,
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go to our top 5 antagonists of all time. And we're talking from the beginning of horror to now. And I know I got a feeling where we're leaning because we've already listed our top 5 franchises. And I think most of those antagonists in those franchises could easily be the top 5.
Yeah. But I mean, we're going all time here.
All time.
You can't go wrong with Dracula, man. I mean, you're talking about all-time horror top dog. All these other guys that came along after,
you stole mine.
All of it. You go back, man. He's been since the silent film era. He's been our guy. So top antagonist. you got to give it to Dracula. I mean, Bela Lugosi, all the way Bram Stoker's. He's the man.
Right.
And honestly, you can argue it till you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, Dracula, man, the way he influenced culture, you can't deny that. From like, I still remember the first time I seen the silent film from back. God damn, I can't even remember what year that movie come out anymore. That silent film of Dracula, and the bald head and the long scrawny fingers. Like, dude, that shit was kind of creepy. Like, no joke. For there to be no sound outside of music, that shit was creepy as fuck. Not scary. Yeah, Nosferatu, the OG. That's right. Deontay knows what's up.
Well, one of my favorite depictions of him, especially with the armor, is when Gary Oldman played him in Bram Stoker's.
Oh,
yes.
Oh,
that
yeah.
armor. And he looked like such an epic badass. I mean,
Gary
it was
Oldman
just like
pulled that.
Amazing.
Gary, hey, a moment to appreciate Gary Oldman, by the way.
Gary Oldman.
Oh my God.
The dude fucking nails every Tim Curry, Gary Oldman are two dudes who you give them a fucking character.
I know.
Irreplaceable.
That's the character. No further questions.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But if I had to pick one for all time, though, I would say Dr. Chenard from the Hellbound Hellraiser 2. I would say that him, because for me, that was the first taste of the monster not actually being the villain of the film. You know, it's this guy, you know, you assume that because he's a doctor, he's there to help people, he's there to care for people, he's there to help them get better, when in reality, he's there for his own personal gain. He wants the puzzle box open. He wants pleasure beyond belief. He wants all these things, and that's what I felt gave him depth as a character. And when we see at the end of the movie with the Cenobites turning back to their human form after they're killed, we see that they weren't always the bad guys. They weren't always these evil beings that exist for pleasure and pain. And it's really hard, especially when you see like the Chatterer, you know, get killed and he ends up being like this kid. And you're just like, you know, the lament configuration is the bad guy. Dr. Chenard is the bad guy. But these Cenobites are just a byproduct of it. They're not really there to be the bad guy. They're just doing the duty that they were created for by the Leviathan. But Dr. Chenard throughout the entire film is there for his own personal gain up until the point that he turns into a Cenobite. And then you see him just wreak havoc as being one of the strongest Cenobites in the movie, and he eventually kills the entire Gash. So I feel like Dr. Chenard is definitely up there as being one of those villains that sticks out more so than the regular Cenobite, just because he was a human that truly didn't care for other people and was only wanting the pleasure for himself.
I liked him a lot. But you know what, though? There's sometimes he lost me with his cheesy one-liners as a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It killed me because we watched it not long ago, and I was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, I went back and watched a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's like sometimes it was like kind of cringe. I'm like, the doctor's in. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, there was some, yeah.
All right, what you got, Jeff? One of the goats.
So for me, I've always enjoyed werewolf stuff. Anything related to werewolf. And we just recently got Werewolf by Night by Marvel, which is, I still have yet to watch it, and I've heard nothing but good about it.
Oh, it's a great return.
But it's one of those where give me a good werewolf flick, and I'm all about it. American Werewolf in London, or was it Paris?
Amazing makeup too.
Question for you, Jeff, because I'm a huge werewolf fan as well. He's probably, you know, one of my favorites. But how did you feel about the Wolfman movie with Benicio del Toro? A lot of people, you know, I loved that movie. A lot of people, you know, it just didn't, you know, sit with them. But I'm like,
I liked it. It gave us that old school vibe.
Oh, man.
Like, if you go back and watch the original Wolfman from way back in the 70s, when we got the creature from the Black Lagoon, or whatever it was Black Lagoon. And, you know, it come out during that era of horror. And then you watch Benicio del Toro's version of it, and it gives you that same exact vibe all over again. And I really love that movie. I don't fuck everybody else, man. That movie was great. I know it gets a lot of slack and a lot of shit, but to me, that movie
on the gypsy camp,
that was awesome.
When it goes by behind that guy so quickly, but it tears his entire back out to where you see his spine in a flash. I was like, that's the fear of a werewolf. Yeah. Is the savagery, the speed, and I mean, just oh my gosh, that was so excellently put. And the whole time, you don't know that that's actually, you know, Anthony Hopkins out there, you know, ripping
motherfuckers up. Yeah,
man. I mean, it was so frightening because I mean, whereas Dracula presents that kind of like elegant, classy fear.
Yeah, Dracula was a classy motherfucker, man.
He's like, look, I can control your mind and drain you to nothing, you know. But the werewolf, I mean, he hit them so quick and went through there in such a fury. It was like, you know, bodies left and right. No one knows what the F's going on. You know, it was impressive. I thought.
We got 24 minutes, guys. So
I think my favorite werewolf of all time will always be Lucian now.
Oh yeah,
Lucian will always be my favorite werewolf. I think those
movies are severely underrated too.
I agree.
Those movies were amazing, and it gives you our two favorite, you know, horror creatures, vampires and werewolves, going at it, mano a mano from the beginning of time, and it's well done. Granted, there were some of those movies that shouldn't have happened. Really, there's some bad ones, but at the same time, even the bad ones are good.
Well, I think that's the first time I remember like the werewolves in like a long time, like not looking goofy. Like they did it so well. Like they, like proportions and just like the way their face looked. Because you know sometimes you get these werewolf movies and it just looks like a fluffy Pomeranian. You're like, that's not even scary.
It's like Teddy Ruxpin,
but I mean that one, even like the makeup and the CGI that they used to show them morphing.
Their legs were
the skin ripping off, and then dude, that.
I mean, I was just like hands down, those are my favorite werewolves.
So we got vampire, werewolf. We got the doctor. What do you got for us, Jen?
Oh, I told you stole mine.
Yeah,
I always
damn it,
I was waiting because I mean, just so you guys know, full disclosure, I've known Jen for actually more like 19 years, but
20.
Anyway,
considering she's in the other room, I hope you know her pretty damn well.
Yeah, I know she wanted to say Dracula, but Jen is probably the cornerstone when it comes to knowledge about witches and so forth, and witch movies, and that's why I was expecting that.
There are good witch movies out there, but I mean, honestly,
Blair Witch was not one of them.
Honestly, there aren't really many witch movies that come to mind that like
Hocus Pocus all day.
Suspiria?
Yeah.
Suspiria was a good witch one.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
I've seen parts of it.
It's dark. I think Dario Argento, who is like an Italian filmmaker.
That's Asia Argento's dad.
Oh man, it was beautifully crafted. If you watch Suspiria, just the
What about The Witch itself? I never watched it.
Oh, The Witch! I actually was trying to watch that today before we got on. Like,
I was
in the middle of I had just started it, and then I got told I had to go pick up dinner. That's why I ended up being late. But I had just started it, and I was like, it's that eerie kind of feeling to it, and it's got that kind of old kind of before technology kind of.
I think a lot of the witches that I like are more books. Like I really like the Mayfair witches that Anne Rice wrote about, and how she.
That's got a TV series coming up.
Yeah.
It's on AMC. I think I don't know if it started yet, but it's got not Rosario Dawson. The chick from Baywatch, the new Baywatch.
Oh yeah, she was in the what's it? The Lightning Thief movie. She played one of the god. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I think she plays Rowan, doesn't she? or
Yeah,
something.
January. I'm being told by a Facebook user it's January.
In January. Okay, yeah, and I really like those story of the witches because to me that's way like more like modern witches would be. But there's just really hasn't been too many.
We just had that recent Sabrina the Teenage Witch run, which was really
that was
good
really
too.
good.
Yeah, that just means
Right.
I mean, you look at we're talking about people who have these, we're talking about the greatest
Charmed, yeah,
antagonists.
right
You got
on, Deontay.
vampires, werewolves, witches. I mean, you go Blair Witch was a huge turning point in modern horror.
And the way horror is told, yes, but the movie itself, but
Deontay says Charmed.
Yeah, of course, Deontay would say Charmed.
Found footage
Alyssa Milano, man,
kind of skyrocketed for the late 90s through the early 2000s to 2010, all due to Blair Witch. You had witch movies that span genres like Season of the Witch or whatever.
Well, Paranormal Activity became about
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got horror movies, action movies, everything with witches involved in it. So they're an antagonist that's been around for forever.
Again, the beginning of time. It's really.
But like
the influences of witches in horror, although it's not always said to be there, it's there.
But like to me, that always felt like the portrayal of witches is always, I don't know, like I like the ones like they more portraying like The Witcher. Like to me, that's more like but like more powerful, more like magic driven. Whereas a lot of times it's like it's something sneaky behind the scenes, like surprise, it's witches, and it's like that's not
surprise.
Oh, surprise, bitches, it's witches. I'm like, oh, that's not really okay. Thanks. You know what I mean? But there hasn't really been anything that's really stood out to me as like far as witches I really like. I have to watch the Suspiria though. I haven't seen that, so maybe that'll change my mind.
I thought American Horror Story Covenant did a really good job, and and then that season influenced all the seasons thereafter it.
Well, I mean,
and they reappear in
Paranormal Activity
season 10.
All the Paranormal Activities center around witchcraft and witches and covens. So I mean, those movies, the fear comes from the demon that works for them, but overall, it is the witches behind the entire thing for that whole series. Like so he was right to mention that. So it's a lot of movies I don't think we take into account. Like Drag Me to Hell is more of a gypsy curse situation, but curses and hexes we always associate with those who use dark magic and witchcraft. Even though, but that's not. We're just saying generalized there.
And Deontay brings up a good point. Like, there's also like different terminologies that would be used. Is it a sorceress or a sorcerer,
warlock,
or witch? Or, you know what I mean? Like the magic users have like so many different like terms that you can throw on them. So.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. So,
but speaking of like horror movie antagonists, though, like witches would eventually, like especially with voodoo, we would get zombies. I think that's one of the big. If we're talking about horror movie antagonists. Just the idea of the living dead coming back and wreaking havoc on people. I mean, that's been prevalent since,
the beginning of horror, really.
Pretty much. Like you had Night of the Living Dead that really kicked it off. Like that's
God. Video games, TV series, movies.
Oh yeah, comic books. The Walking Dead. You had, of course, just like
28 Days Later.
28
Days later was more so fucking virus. Good.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah,
that was more of like a virus kind of thing instead of the living dead. It was more like it affected living people, and it just it was the rage virus. But I wish we had gotten a third film to that.
I know those.
And I thought we were going to get that third film, but we never did.
Oh yeah, and I felt like that was such a brilliant way of doing it. That it was just fast paced, always in your face.
Yeah,
and there was
fast zombie. Oh my god!
And it didn't have to be just a bite anymore. It was if you got blood in your mouth, if you got blood in your eye, in your ear, that's all it took, and you could turn into one of them. And I thought that was something that made it even more terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that all the people that had the rage virus, they were all like athletes. they hired like all the extras that they had were all like athletes and like
Yeah.
marathon runners. So they would be
Yeah,
sprinting
it'd
and
be
they
scary,
actually
'cause you're
were
like, damn, that
faster.
person
Yeah.
is fast. Like,
Oh damn.
but I mean, the zombies. You're trying to pick a good one. That's definitely an antagonist. I mean, we got the viral version, we got the supernatural version, but zombies in general. I mean, you got everything from Zombie Land to World War Z to
World War Z was a virus too, I think.
yeah. That's why we got the
But then
virus.
you got like Shaun of the Dead though. Shaun of the Dead was straight up the Living Dead come back.
Shaun of the Dead is amazing.
Dude, I
It's
love that
amazing.
movie.
A brilliant movie. I really enjoyed that one. But
I could watch that movie every day.
But
What was
zombie
the new
film.
one on Netflix with Bautista?
Oh yeah. That was Snyder. That Snyder movie.
Yeah, they're in like Las Vegas. I forgot how we got those zombies though. But those zombies were like smart zombies. Like some of them were smart, some of them not so much.
Well, I mean, look
But
at
they
Resident Evil.
actually like they had the bride who was pregnant and was about to have a pregnant or a zombie baby.
Zombie babies.
Yeah, so that was like a new spin on zombies,
I mean, I remember that in that, what was it, the Dawn of the Dead remake?
Dawn of the Dead remake was
that was
on point, man.
Yes.
That, like, seeing the birth of like the zombie baby was just a whole that was a trip to see.
That was the remake we fucking deserved.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, the first 5 minutes in the theater, my heart was pumping, man, because that's the first time you saw zombies run and just tear people up, everywhere. It was on the bus, it was on the street, it was on the, and you're like, wow, they went all out. That movie doesn't get enough credit for the horror that it instilled.
Well,
I mean,
Jonte brought up a good point. I mean, you went from like these slow, crippled, like decaying zombies to ones that are like actually like sprinting after you, and to me, it's even more terrifying.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you look at Night of the Living Dead, and you're like in the near the end, the girl just takes off. She's like, we can run past them. We can get past them. And in that movie, you could just run past them, push them. They're not very quick. They don't respond. But hell, if you could do that in Dawn of the Dead, I mean, those guys were chasing vehicles down. You're like, oh crap.
Oh man, it was a trip seeing that one. But I would put that up there with being one of the best horror, like zombie horror films that came out.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
But I wish we could get some more zombie spoofs though, kind of like the Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, that was hilarious.
That one was so much fun. I love that movie. I wish that we would get more stuff like that again. That kind of, maybe not taking it as seriously,
So that's funny. Deontay just said, imagine a zombie track star. So not far off from that, Disney did their version of the zombie. And it was a zombie football player. Like it was a whole show. It was like zombie something.
Oh.
Hey, and then we got iZombie. I don't know if y'all watched that TV series. iZombie was
I've seen
pretty
episodes
good.
of it.
So basically the girl got bit by a zombie. But they're intelligent zombies. It's not your traditional zombie. And what happens is she's a med student. She ends up dropping out of med school and becomes a coroner assistant in order to get brains to survive. So, but anytime she eats a brain, she gets some of their memories. And she uses that to help the police solve crimes.
Oh man, that almost sounds like Chew. Oh man.
It's not a bad series. It's really enjoyable. Oh, dude.
Oh, have you guys ever seen the Oz Zombies?
The Oz Zombies.
You gotta watch Oz Zombies.
No,
That's a
definitely
good
after what
spoof.
Tommy said, like a campy comedy.
You'd like it.
You gotta watch it. It's like as in zombies. It's,
okay. I thought you were saying odd zombies. I thought it was gonna be like flying monkeys.
I got you.
Oh man.
No, but, it's definitely pretty. It's pretty good.
And
I definitely
came
to visit me.
Oh man, that dude, or
get your ass out my face, dude. Thank you.
But I like some of those spoof ones. Another one that I really enjoyed was it was a movie called Zombievers.
Oh,
Yeah, that
And
sounds
that
like one of
one
those
was- yeah.
sci-fi movies.
we
That
did it
was
for
good.
our horrible horror movie night, where we see who could pick the worst one, and we all get together and watch them.
Oh man,
It's like
I
Sharknado 5.
love movies like that.
Yeah.
Sharknado 5 would be up there as being one of those movies. Like,
Yeah.
Now I do like the movies though; they were pretty funny. I think that
That's,
For what they are.
that's the gift of horror
Sharknado,
movies.
yeah.
You know, horror movies, even when
Oh,
they're
we got somebody
terrible,
from
they
Norway
can
in the
still be
room.
funny.
What's up, dude?
That's true.
But yeah, that to me, like, I love those cheesy. Well, hello there, Toby. My familiar come to visit. But those can't be like sci-fi channel horror movies that you get. Those are some of the
Yeah.
best ones, man.
Oh, like
The-
I laugh the whole time.
like Hatchet.
Hatchet,
Oh,
yeah.
Hatchet
Oh,
was
most definitely.
We were watching Hatchet, and it's like, oh god, some of the way some of the characters died, and you're like, oh god, that's so terrible.
Hey,
But
if you
it's
want to go
funny.
old school, I don't know if y'all ever watched Hostel,
Yes.
the original Hostel.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I don't
That movie
remember
was
too
so
much. That's
good.
into that like torture kind of that genre kind of lost me. It was too.
It was almost very,
It felt more shock than it did
1970s
horror. It
fluff.
felt like it was just like they were trying to just push as many limits as they could.
And the first one they didn't do it as much, but by the time it got to the second and third one, it wasn't tolerable. Like I couldn't, like it was too much. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like how
That's
Saw
what
became.
Saw
Saw became very like
Yeah.
the traps were the big thing that everybody wanted to see, and then the story was kind of just like okay, it was there.
And
Right.
it kind of got to the ridiculous point. Like, okay, how long did this guy take to set up all these traps, build all these traps and everything?
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
so
come on,
And then
man.
they just keep adding people to the mix. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, this person joined them, and then this person joined them, and then now we're like, what the fuck? I mean, where do we go forward? You know?
And so it's coming back. Like the original Saw is coming back.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
rebooting it.
And dude, I will not be watching it. I
No.
can't.
No.
Well, I know that Chris Rock, that Jigsaw movie.
Viral.
I heard positive things about that one.
That wasn't
yeah,
bad.
It wasn't. It was pretty good.
But it could be a standalone one movie and it'd be fine.
Right.
I don't think they need to reboot the Saw franchise because Jigsaw is not.
He's dead to me. Like the dude fucking died. Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't supernatural. There was nothing special about the guy. It was Macaulay Culkin
traps.
fucking grown up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So,
to
like-
me, like the first two were phenomenal movies. But after that, man, it just
Yeah.
It became a
didn't
gore
work.
fest. Like Tommy is saying, it was a shock. Like how can we
Yeah.
shock them now? Like let's twist this guy's whole head in half. How about we
Yeah,
do that?
it's like Hostel 2 and 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're
And like shock is okay with me, like because you had like Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie does a lot of shock. That's what like
Mhm.
Devil's
House of a Thousand
Rejects and
Corpses,
House of
Devil's
Thousand
Rejects.
Corpses.
Yeah.
And 31 things like that. That's more like that makes sense for the shock horror because there's still like at least a comedic element to it that's like that keeps it from being just a serious tone through and through. Once it becomes like a serious tone, it's almost like a Serbian film, where a Serbian film, the entire film is just unsettling and uncomfortable, and you're just like you kind of leave feeling kind of just queasy, and it's not like you enjoyed it, that's what like I said, like I like a lot of the older 70s 80s horror films because you enjoyed it. It was still like they had a little bit of comedy to make sure that it wasn't just all serious. By the time we get to the 2000s and the 2010s, that's when everybody was like, okay, let's try to make this as realistic as possible, and then at that point it's just too much. Like
I know Deontay just said that demons are low-key the best monster and antagonist in his opinion. Can't argue that, and they play a huge role in so many movies. I mean, Michael Myers was a demon. Jason eventually became a demon. So yeah, that's right up there.
Another of my personal favorites is always like demon possession. Like
Yes.
I love watching
Like the
demon
supernatural
possession
type stuff.
Yeah, I love that
Exorcist
stuff.
I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Exorcist
And
was
then,
so good, man. Way ahead of its time.
I always liked like poltergeists though, like the kind of
Yeah.
like spirits that really
Dude,
affected people. Like I
I
really
couldn't
enjoyed
eat
this
split
movie.
pea soup for years after that movie.
Oh man.
Could you?
But you guys should watch The Entity. The Entity is a really
Yeah, I like
that
The
one's
Entity.
excellent. It's based
Yeah.
on
True
a
story.
real
The
event.
story, yeah.
Oh yeah. And just the fact that like the woman couldn't get away from this, you know, this being that
So
was
sad.
always just, it was a rough movie too. Like it gets
Yeah.
rough at some points. Like there's a
Yeah.
whole
A lot
scene
of
in the
sexual
bathroom.
assault and rape. It's bad.
Oh yeah, but it is definitely one of those horror movies that's
The Last House on the Left was that way, and that's really why it. So a lot of stuff that happened in The Last House on the Left, if you could ever find a no shit Wes Craven director's cut and see the NC-17 version of that movie, it makes the rated R version they put in theaters PG-13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you read that book, no, it's a page turner, and then there's like a few pages where you have to go skip that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
So Exorcist, The Conjuring, Insidious, and Paranormal Activity. Don't all those movies go together though?
I don't
Kind of in
think
that paranormal
they're-
aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not
I
in the
know,
same
like-
universe, but they're
they're-
definitely the demonic.
It seems
supernatural
somewhere
event.
I seen like where all those were what is it, Annabelle? Like,
Yeah.
the Annabelle universe is what I'm calling
Oh,
it. where,
Annabelle
like,
connects to Conjuring.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Nun and-
connects.
It starts with the
Conjuring.
Nun, even though the Nun come out 15 years later. But I know it starts with the Nun's the very first one,
Oh
and
yeah.
then it goes into Annabelle, and then it gives you like the timeline of the movies to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Conjuring verse. Thank you, Deontay, with the save.
Oh yeah, I actually dug those movies. I dug the Conjuring
are
movies,
good.
and I dug the Insidious movies. I thought the Insidious movies were actually enjoyable.
Yeah.
They were
ones that lost
enjoyable,
me-
but they were really fucking creepy to me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't fuck with the Conjuring type stuff, man. That stuff to me is creepy as shit.
but those were two franchises that kind of stuck out because like Paranormal Activity, the first one when it came out, I thought was good, but then you get like the sequels after that, and then it kind of diminishes from the first film of it being, you know, ghosts to now there's witches involved, and now there's demons involved, and it's all just kind of manifested into something that was completely different from the original. Like, so that to me kind of made the series fall off.
I think the two I enjoyed the most was definitely the first one and then the marked ones.
Marked ones was cool. I liked how
But,
that one
yeah.
how that one went because it that's one where it encompassed more of the actual coven, the cult,
Mm-hmm.
whole following. It was definitely I like that. It expanded.
I just like seeing the young guy's like progression, like through his
Yeah.
like possession and everything. I really like enjoyed watching that.
Right.
I mean, you know, again, it's background. It's the witches.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See, witches, man. I'm telling you.
I know,
Yeah.
man. Pain in the ass. But yeah, I tell you, I can't tell you how many times I watched Paranormal Activity and just like the end, especially when you see his footprints and like the flower and when he like drags Katie like down there. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
man.
So Deontay has given us like the full on. They had continuity though because the demons was assigned to their family since Kate's birth.
Yeah.
So there we go. Deontay with the save.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't deny that. You know, we've seen that the top antagonists here all seem to make sense. We've gone from vampires, werewolves, zombies, demons,
doctors.
spookies. Yeah. So doctors. I mean, I think we all have that innate fear of the person that's supposed to be helping you and making you better, that knows so much about you and
Don't be
knows so
scared of
much
them.
stuff, but is actually twisting.
I work with
That
them.
was-
Don't be scared of them.
I mean, there's a lot of iterations that can be fearful as far as.
I mean, shit. A doctor gave us the human centipede.
Oh,
Yeah.
gross.
Granted, he was a Nazi doctor,
Ew.
but still.
Oh man.
So,
Sorry. I mean, we're talking horror here.
That's so gross.
Yeah,
That was more
dude,
shock than horror.
yeah.
That's what it felt
Yeah,
like.
that's one of those gore fest, disgusting movies.
Yeah. Like that's a straight up snuff film. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Well, the second one is. The second one most definitely is. Like just
there's a third one too.
There's a third one?
Yeah. My daughter was like, "Did you know there was a third human centipede?" I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, they do it with like 100 people for the third one.
I have no
idea. Because it's in a prison.
I can't. No, the first one was bad enough.
Oh, the second one's even worse. So like I've seen all three of them. The second one I still think is the worst. Like there was not like because they did it all in black and white, and there's some scenes with like sandpaper and barbed wire that you don't want to see, but they make you see anyways. No, second movie is the worst.
It's the worst.
The first movie.
We're almost out of time, but I think we've touched on some areas that if there was another night where we discussed horror, like we haven't talked really about the existential horror stuff, more the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, like
the Robert E. Howard stuff. Oh man,
I don't know if you ever watched In the Mouth of Madness or. Event Horizon is very existential.
Dude, you know what we have to do one day where we do like authors. I know we were supposed to get to it tonight and we didn't, because if you haven't read Wes Craven's The Book of Blood, goddamn, go pick out a copy of The Book of Blood. It is a phenomenal. You can get it as an all-in-one series, and it from start to finish, it is a phenomenal book.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Oh yeah. And that, like, you got to talk about Scott Snyder when you talk about horror. I mean, that guy's he gave us, what was it, Witches, and then he's currently working on a book called Night of the Ghoul, which I think is brilliant. I think that's a really fun read.
I'm waiting to see how he's going to do a ghoul. Like, what's his definition of a ghoul?
Oh man, it's so trippy. And you have to read the book to really like see what he's doing with it, because it's a horror film inside a comic book. When they're trying to find out about the horror film within the comic, it's all.
And then we'll have to do comic books one night too, horror comic books, because that's kind of like my bread and butter. I love script and like no shit, the amount of money I've spent this month on horror comic books, I should be ashamed of myself.
Oh man, I'm just picking up any of the ones that look good right now. So like I picked up that new Lovesick, that Image title, and I picked up the Damn Them All by Boom.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought that one was.
So
dope.
if you're really into horror, Boom Studios really is where they're producing so much good fucking horror right now.
I think they're doing a pretty good job. I think a Blade.
$2.99, you're getting a great fucking read.
Oh yeah, I think a Blade comic is pretty good.
I can't remember the name of it, but
it's
a web comic that's all horror, and it's usually done it looks like monochrome or maybe tricolored ink, and it's so well done.
Which site is it on?
Huh?
Which site is it on? Is it a website?
I'll find it and I'll get you. I'll send it to you guys in the messenger so you guys can check it out. But it's actually it's an anthology of short, like just short stories that are just, so well done.
Okay.
But it's very very horror centric. So, but yeah, excellent guys. I enjoyed all the inputs and all the information and viewpoints have been great.
Oh yeah, and it was nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, same.
Oh,
Good meeting people and putting faces to names who I talk to almost on a daily basis. And yeah, it's good to see everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And I think. Eric, I think we've met in the past, and I just can't put the two and two together. So
I'm sure. No.
Yeah, I'm a retired 1 Charlie 5, so
yeah,
we run deep.
Yeah,
Jen's like, oh really?
Plenty of times.
I'm like, now I'm looking at your face. I'm like, wait a minute, do I know you?
I rock that big beard now. Got that retiree beard going.
I know it's hard to imagine us all clean cut and 15, 20 years younger,
Right.
Oh, I know.
So, but yeah, great night, guys.
Shit, man, I joined the military with a red beard, and I came out of the military with a gray beard, if that tells you any damn thing.
They took your color, Jeff. They took your color.
They did. They stole my fucking will to live. Took retirement to get it back. But hey, let's wrap it up, guys. This was a good show. I really enjoyed my first time being on here, and I couldn't ask for better co-hosts tonight.
Oh yeah, and I'd really like to do this again with you guys, especially talking about
Same.
horror.
We'll have to
It-
fucking roll
Same.
Dante's
So
ass
much
in
fun.
here next time, and will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
If
for
they
sure.
call on us again, and maybe we get a chance to catch up on some of these movies, we'll have the
Yeah.
Pray for the Devil to check out, Smile.
Yeah, I'm looking
Sadness.
forward to Smile. I've
Me
heard
too.
so many damn good things about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, well, I look forward to it, guys. It's been great. You all have
Yes.
a good night, and
Y'all too.
take care.
Oh
Y'all
yeah,
too.
peace out,
Y'all
guys.
enjoy.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Peace out, y'all.